Hello and welcome back to El Pozo, the Primera RFEF show. We have finally had a weekend of football to talk about. It was match day one at the end of August, and Liam Banbridge is here joining me down the well to talk about some of the results, some of the games, with a special focus on the teams that have fallen into the well or risen up the well, Liam, I suppose, in some cases.
Yeah, we've got 14 in total, haven't we? So that should keep us busy for the next 50 minutes or so. And of course, we've also got to start off by talking all about the transfer deadline day, which is now past, haven't we? And was there anything significant happening towards the end of that window that we'd like to talk about? Yes, there was. Start us off.
Yeah, I think just to look at some notable moves, because as we sort of mentioned in the preview shows, it's a bit overwhelming, the transfer market down in Primera RFEF, isn't it? So some big ones that we can bring up. We were speaking about David Flacos last week and saying like what a miss for Real Murcia he would be. Hopefully he goes back there. We can now confirm he has returned to Murcia. So what a signing he is from Castellón. Liam, he was so good for them at the back end of last season, wasn't he?
Yeah, it was brilliant. I mean, I think they've paid money for him, haven't they? So they must really want him. And I know Murcia are the kind of club that can afford to pay a transfer fee. But yeah, I think it's €500,000, isn't it? It's a lot of money at this level. But he, as I suggested last week, is potentially a completely differential player for me in terms of their promotion aspirations. So yeah, I think that's a great deal for them to get done, and I think he will make a massive contribution over the season, give them a great chance of being minimum top 5, I would say.
Yeah, I think I want to change my prediction now that he's gone back in there, because he is just goals, isn't he? So yeah, he should pick up where he left off, hopefully. Just some noticeable free transfers as well with some big names, and I've definitely not picked Malaga ones just because I'm a Malaga fan. But one of my favourite players from the last 2 years at Malaga, Manu Molina. So surprised to see him leave La Rosaleda this summer. He's ended up joining Dioni at Eldense. Ander Martin has joined Burgos and gone to Cartagena. I thought that would be quite a big transfer lane, but you were telling me with your Segunda hat on, he's not someone really of massive notes, but still, those moves do happen.
Yeah, I think he's a decent signing for Cartagena. I haven't seen him play a huge amount last season. He's not been a regular starter up front for Burgos because partly because of Ferranino, to be honest, who's done really well for them. And I think on the whole, they've tended to favour just the lone striker. But yeah, I think he'll do a good job at Cartagena. And Manu Molina, totally agree. He was at Real Zaragoza, I think, before Malaga. Not well liked there, and I'm not really sure why not, because I thought it was decent. And certainly, did a good job at Malaga. I was a bit surprised when they let him go. And an interesting one in that he's joined right at the end of the window, and maybe he was hanging out there for Segunda club, and eventually has gone to Eldense. But of course, the advantage that clubs like Eldense have got, who are reasonably well funded, is that they can offer the kind of player like Manu Molina a decent wage, because they're not capped at all in Primera RFEF. And I think we're seeing that a bit more recently, Nick, particularly this transfer when a few players, maybe Ander Martin, also had offers. In Segunda, and I've seen a lot of players who are choosing to drop down to Primera RFEF, probably because they're at the stage of their careers where they're not that bothered about playing a level lower, and the financial rewards are slightly higher, and probably also the fact that I imagine Manu Molina will play every week. So there are factors that will certainly play into that, I think, with both of those signings, and possibly also Luis Muñoz, who I think is also ex-Malaga, isn't he? He's gone to Marbella. I know he's had injuries, but I was a little bit surprised that he didn't get a Segunda club.
Yeah, it's his first time coming down to this level as well. Like today, when he was at Malaga, he was pretty well revered, and when they were relegated, there were efforts made to try and keep him, but he obviously elected to go to Cartagena instead. So, for Marbella to add him to an already impressive, recruitment list that they've got, and I'm sure we'll come on to speak about Marbella later, that's quite a signing. And again, maybe from his perspective, just nice to go and live closer to home, I imagine. I know in Spanish terms, Cartagena is not too far away from Malaga, just up the coast. It is about an 8-hour drive or something mad like that. But he probably just thought, yeah, why not? I've got a few former Malaga players there as well, with Alberto Escassi and amongst others. So let's go enjoy ourselves down the coast once again. So yeah, interesting. Another decent sign of Marbella. a bit of sour taste transfer news, Liam, and that is of Alex Rubio leaving Antequera, going to a B side at Villarreal. It doesn't really sit with us well, does it?
It doesn't sit really well. I can understand why Alex Rubio would do it, of course, because there's always that draw, isn't that you're going to sign for the B side, but if you do well for the B team, you then potentially could end up being a La Liga player. You can show your skills at that level. You are obviously still nowadays 2 levels below La Liga with Villarreal B. What really didn't please me was the fact that I saw this, as a possible move at least 10 days before it happened. And I got the feeling that Villarreal B were trying to essentially make an inferior offer to his release clause, and that Antequera were hanging on for what it was, which was 300,000 euros, I believe. And then it happens on transfer deadline day, on the day that the market closes. So if they wanted to buy him, go buy him. 300,000 euros to a club like Villarreal is absolute pocket money, isn't it? Go buy him 10 days ago. Don't mess around for the sake of 50, 60, 70,000 euros. And then basically stitch up a team who, by the way, are in your league, which again doesn't feel right, by signing their main striker and giving them almost no time to sign a replacement. So yeah, we've often said that we're not big fans of filiales, and it's things like this that really wind me out.
Yeah, and I suppose, like you say, Antequera may be able to take advantage of the free agent market, and 300,000 euro, to a club of that size is, a windfall to say the least. But yeah, it's just, everything about that just feels crap, really, to me. But leaves on a high, scoring at the weekend. So, even though it was ruled offside, but yeah, he's going to go and play in the Villarreal training ground for a bit, so fair play to him. One man who did remain in Primera RFEF, Liam, and I am very happy he is here for now. There are still murmurings about this one. Vladis Alcorcon obviously didn't make the squad yesterday in their defeat to Villarreal B. Linked with Cadiz for the last few weeks. There was a lot of inference that might come off yesterday. Cadiz announcing a lot of players on deadline day as new signings, but ultimately it mustn't have made it through.
No, I mean, in situations like this, I always keep an eye on Angel Garcia on Twitter, who's got an excellent account and knows an awful lot about what's going on with transfer wheelings and dealings. And he seems to think that this is a done deal for next summer, that he will announce that he's joining Cadiz next summer, probably as soon as January the 1st arrives. Maybe he'll even try and leave in the winter transfer window. It depends how things are with Alcorcon, I suppose. I mean, I think he's been left out because the story at the moment is that he's so upset that he's suffering psychologically because he's not been allowed to leave Alcorcon and go to Cadiz, but it sounds to me like he is still going to get that wish in due course. And let's just hope when this has all died down a little bit, he gets back in the team and really justifies Alcorcon's decision to hang on to him, because they were offered quite a lot of money for him. They felt it wasn't enough compared to what his release clause was. They dug their heels in, and they need him, don't they? As we've said before, he's a massive part of their promotion possibilities, and I hope he just puts this behind in this situation and gives them his very best, because it sounds to me like he's going to get the move to Segundo or possibly higher if Cadiz keep going as they've started this season, next summer anyway, or possibly even before that. So yeah, it's not an ideal situation, but I do quite like it sometimes when clubs refuse to bow to player pressure, and this is one of them. If they can sort it out between them, he could still be a massive asset for them this season.
Yeah, he is in the final year of his contract, so like you say, maybe Cadiz have weighed it up and said, well, young lad, maybe one for the future. Let's just bide our time. But, same from the Alcorcon position. Similar to what we were saying about Alex Rubio. Just don't dick us around. They've got release clauses, and with respect to these release clauses, sometimes they're buttons, aren't they, Liam? We're not talking millions here. We're not talking about massive amounts of money. Picking players up from Primera RFEF can be quite, lucrative to the coffers of the clubs that are buying, not the ones that are selling. So, it'd be interesting to see whether he can get back in the team then, because they are a much better side with him in it. And, if he can, like you said, prove why he's worth Cadiz going back in for him and getting that move to Segunda, he'll earn it. I just would hate to see him sat in the stands, between now and January, because that would be a massive waste for the lad who did do so well with Alcorcon last season as well. So yeah, many other transfer happened as well. If you don't want to go find those out, and your respective teams, go check out things like B Soccer or Angel Clathier, as you said on Twitter. He's very good for that, isn't he, Liam? So yeah, that is a wrap of all the transfer deadline day moves. Plenty happening. Shall we talk about some football, Liam?
Yeah, let's do so. Let's start with the Grupo Uno, shall we? Just because it comes first in terms of when the fixtures are listed on your apps. Let's start with Tenerife, shall we? Because we said we focused on the 14 teams who are new to Primera RFEF. Obviously, Tenerife have come down from Segunda. They are our favourites for the Grupo Uno title. They started their quest to go straight back up again with a comfortable 2-0 win on the road. We talked about Jesus de Miguel being key in terms of scoring goals. He put a goal on the plate here, to be honest. They call it a caramelo, don't they? A sweet, literally, in Spain. A lovely cross that Dani Fernandez connected on the far post and tucked it away. And then a really cool finish from Nacho Gil in the second half. So, even with 40 minutes to go, this game was over. 2-0 Tenerife. Very solid start, and no more than we expected from them, really, at this early stage of the season. I wouldn't say after a flyer, I would say more a routine success. The team they were playing against, of course, are also new to Grupo Uno and Primera Federación, aren't they?
They are Guadalajara, who are my outside chances of maybe reaching the playoffs in terms of what little I have seen of them. But it's like you said, Liam. This is possibly the toughest start you can have to a Primera RF life, with Tenerife coming down, and it's not a massive surprise really that they've suffered defeat here. Watching back, they didn't carry a lot of attacking threat going forward. One of the best chances they had fell to Borja Diaz, but it was well saved by Dani Martin, and I think that's how their season will be defined if they can get the goals. I do believe that they can probably battle, maybe not towards the top end, maybe I'm being over optimistic, but certainly a mid-table finish, which for a club of this size and where they've been would be absolutely fantastic. But not in this game. They couldn't really lay a glove on Tenerife, could they? And I like how the way you described it. It's not a flying start for Tenerife, it's routine. And if Tenerife can do this all season, they'll win this league at a canter, won't they?
I think so, yeah. I think we talked about Racing Club de Ferrol also come down with them as another strong contender. We'll talk a little bit more about their game a little bit later. But yeah, I think Tenerife are most teams will find them the hardest opposition this season. And if they can keep their heads and just keep churning out routine wins like this one, then it's very hard to imagine them not going straight back up again. A more encouraging start for one of the new boys who we don't fancy to do very well. We haven't got very high expectations of them at all, have we? Arenas de Getxo won 2-1 against Alan Taylor. And what I like most about this game was Baba, a young winger. I do like a young winner, Nick. And he was very impressive. I mean, I then, of course, went and looked him up because I didn't know much about him. He'd been at Real Madrid for a number of years, and then he went to Tenerife. I think only this summer he's been gone to Tenerife, and immediately loaned out to Arenas de Getxo. And the one thing I noticed about him, Nick, I don't know if you saw these highlights, that he is absolutely lightning quick. I mean, he just absolutely tore down the wing on a couple of occasions. In fact, he took his goal really well as well. He just took on the last man, beat him for pace over 5 yards, and then just basically flicked it over the keeper as he came out. Really impressive. And of course, 90th minute winner in this game, and when they were down to 10 men. I mean, obviously we might rate them as likely to go down, and they wouldn't have such a low opinion themselves, but they must, to a certain extent, be a little bit in awe of what they've joined, and what a great confidence boost that is for the first week to get 2-1 wins, to say, with a last minute winner when you're down to 10.
Absolutely. Like you say, I didn't really give them much hope for this season, but kind of watching this back, in the same vein I was talking about Guadalajara, they could do something. But I suppose from their perspective, these are the games that they need to win. If they've got any chance of staying in this league, is they've got to capitalise on playing the teams that they know or assume will be finishing around them. And Aranteros definitely finish, in in that category for me. I think we agreed that they would be, one of the teams that would get relegated from Grupo Uno. And I tell you what, they didn't demonstrate to me in this game much of a reason to not continue to believe that as well, Liam. They were poor, weren't they?
Yeah, I thought so. I thought we were really, really average, and you're quite right. Yeah, Iniesta gets on need to record victories against these sides, regardless of their ultimate ambitions. These are 6 pointers even on the first day of the season, aren't they? Because I totally agree. I think they are a side Alan Taylor will be, struggling this season, and it's a big win for Iniesta Getxo. A baptism of fire for another new team, though, in Abiles, and a new coach, of course, Danny Vidal. Didn't have such a fun time, did they, Nick?
No, they really didn't. And we kind of signposted this in our predictions as where Real Aviles were going to be finishing in. Ponferradina 2 times back-to-back playoff finalists. I've always just sort of like fallen at the final hurdle. There was some inference that they maybe won't be as good this season, given the players that they've lost and the change of manager and such. But 3-0 at half time, that's a signal of intent, top of the league at the moment. And, Real Aviles Industrial just couldn't lay a glove on them, could they? It was men versus boys, the old proverbial, as they say. And, you hope that Real Aviles can just bounce back from this, because that is a hiding on match day 1.
It is, yeah. I think they played better in the second half, if I'm honest. But yeah, the game was up by them, wasn't it? Really, they carried a little bit more attacking threat after the break. I think it must be a certain degree of shell shock being suffered. And I think you're right. I mean, it's the inference is from me, amongst others, that Pompey might not have quite so much talent in their squad this season. That their repeat performance in terms of top 5 at least is guaranteed. But they have, even since I said that about a week ago, signed a couple more players. San Antonio came in from Cardiff, and although he's been quite injury prone, he's a decent player. If he stays fit for them, he could be a big signing. And they've certainly made a few late acquisitions in the transfer market that we haven't discussed. But yeah, I think they are already, even since I said that, as I say, looking better. I think very differing perspectives for these two teams, isn't it? Real Aviles will know that they're not going to play a side like Ponfe every week. Again, like Iniesta Getxo, like Guadalajara, they have to look at the sort of league within a league that they're playing in to stay up. And equally, Ponferradina will know this is an incredibly encouraging performance, and yeah, they are top of the league after one game, but they are going to face tougher tests than this, aren't they?
Yeah. Pau Ferreira is me in this game. He's shown glimpses of how good he can be in previous seasons. But in this one, he looked unplayable. Providing the assist, scoring the goal, he was everywhere. And maybe this is an opportunity for him to show his qualities. He's had to compete with a lot of decent forward players the last couple of seasons at Pompey. So, maybe this is his butterfly moment, to give it a nice little metaphor to go alongside it. But I was really impressed with him. If he can keep this up, he'll be a top striker at this level.
Yeah, I think he had some minutes off the bench last year and he scored some goals. You're right. I'm not sure if he was on loan last year and now it's been made permanent. But yeah, definitely. I think I said in the previous show as well that he would be getting more minutes this season. He would be more of a main man. And with that comes a certain amount of pressure, doesn't it? And he certainly didn't show any pressure in this game. He was excellent, as you say, and could be a massive player for them this season. How about not the other pun in the? I was thinking this, in terms of what they put on the screen. We've got 2 puns in Grupo Uno this season. And we're going to have to start calling them PVD or something like that. And when I was thinking about my team of the week earlier on, I was like, how do I distinguish between Pontevedra and Ponferradina? But Pontevedra, I'm talking about now, not Ponferradina. And they were heading for defeat. But then we had a quite remarkable ending to this game, didn't we?
Oh, yes. So if you had a tick box for everything you'd want from a match day 1 game in Pontevedra, it would be equaliser, 99th minute, goalkeeper, and absolutely unbelievable scenes the way that he's gone up there and got onto the end of the free kick and just finished it with aplomb as well, Liam, didn't he? It was a striker's finish, that.
Brilliant, yeah. Raul Marqueta is he was at Orense last season, so he's just popped down the road to Pontevedra and it's cracking header. I kind of, we didn't really mention, did we? In the the talk of pre I suppose it's because going on during the weekend rather than, it's a news story, but we can refer to it now. We're actually talking about the games. This FES system that they brought in, still a bit confused about how they're using it. I got the impression it was only going to be used essentially, it was only be looked at by the referees when the coaches use one of their two kind of cards that they can play if they're not happy about a decision. But it seemed to be being looked at an awful lot more by referees over the weekend. Not quite sure what that was all about. But yeah, I don't know if this was the first instance, but it's the first instance I clocked, and I might be wrong on this, but I'm pretty sure that Pontevedra appealed to the ref for a penalty, which he hadn't given, and then he did give it, and then they missed it. So, I mean, I guess the appeal was a good one, even if the penalty wasn't. But yeah, it's an interesting innovation, and we'll see how it pans out over the next few weeks. There are a few delays according to its use, of course, but that's always going to happen with any sort of VAR light stroke VAR system, isn't it? And this, as I say, was an interesting one. But yeah, I mean, I think probably it's a good idea, but I'm still not completely convinced. Of course, this 1-1 draw was against another newcomer to the league, wasn't it? Yeah.
It was Casareño, who we've had a lovely reception from Casareño fans on Twitter since they found us. So I must thank them for their support for us. I think even one of them went as far to say that we are the best source of information for Primera Federación, and we're English, which I had to chuckle about, to be fair. But no, if they're saying it, that's fair. That's fair enough. But No, I'm not going to argue that at all. But Pontevedra's opponents this season, both of them had fantastic seasons last time round. So a draw here, probably absolutely spot on, even with the nature of the equaliser on the home side. But the early goal from Carlos Gonzalez, really lovely finish as well. He's had an underwhelming spell at Atlético San Eugenio last season, but he's definitely started this one better. And they'll be gutted they didn't hang on, did they, Liam?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose when you got to the 99th minute, you're thinking you're winning the game. Yeah, I mean, Carlos Gonzalez finishes lovely. I think Pontevedra will feel they should defend it better. He ran an awful long way unchallenged. But yeah, I love to see that. I think he was at Numancia, I think, and that was in Segunda Federación. Had a go at Atlético San Eugenio, didn't work out for him, and he's mostly off the bench and didn't really do much. And then went back to Numancia, I think, at the end of last season, possibly, and then is trying again now with Casareño to make his mark in Primera Federación. And that's a great confidence booster for him, regardless of how well it was defended, isn't it? It was a lovely finish. But yeah, overall, a point they probably settled for, I should say, at the start of the day. But, having got to the 99th minute, you'd be a bit gutted that you didn't hang on, wouldn't you? Another team in that part of the world, not Casareño, but where this game was being played, which, of course, is Galicia, is Racing Club de Ferrol. What did you make of their performance?
Well, we've obviously tipped them to be up there, and possibly similar to the way we're talking about Tenerife is, if they can just grind out results, and I'm going to use the word grind here, because that's what it certainly felt like, especially when they fell behind to Talavera. They, responded efficiently, is the way I'm going to do it, when to come back from that. Noriega getting a goal. He was with Orense last season. He's followed the manager Pablo Lopez to the club. I thought they did okay. They didn't light it up. They just got the job done, didn't they?
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, I did think, I felt sorry for Talavera. I thought they played well. I thought they deserved something out of this game. I think they feel quite hard done by overall. I think somebody echoed that, didn't they, on Twitter? Was it Harvey Kingston who mentioned he thought that they probably deserved a point as well? Harvey, always good to hear from you, and great to get your thoughts on the games as well. It's really especially when they agree with mine, obviously. But yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. It was efficient. It was like Tenerife. I didn't think it was sparkling, but they got the job done. And again, it's a completely new squad of players, of course, but confidence in the sort of stands at the very least, are going to be quite low. I was really impressed actually with the turnout for this as well, because they were dreadful in Segunda last season. I think I thought it was a decent crowd in Amalata for this, and they were treated to 2 goals in the league by their side for the first time since the opening day of last season. They haven't scored 2 goals in the league.
You have to remind me
for a year. So fair play for the fans turning out, and they were rewarded with 3 points and 2 goals. Should I point out that those 2 goals were scored against Malaga, Nick? I just have, unfortunately.
Yeah, go on then. Go on then.
But yeah, absolutely right. Yeah,
And
exactly as you said. And this is unfortunately the way it's going to go. I mean, I think it is. You know, I don't think either Tenerife or I think Club de Fero will care a jot that they weren't brilliant this weekend. They won both of them, and that's what they need to do. Probably about another 25 to 30 times if they want to, if either wants to get promoted. So, they'll chalk it off and move on, and they will need to develop the ability to win games without being at their best, because we know how competitive this league is. You do need to sometimes win when you're not at your best. And yeah, Talavera for me, as I say, I felt they really deserved something out of this game. I thought they had a number of promising situations they didn't take. They were 1 goal up in this game. But again, are they going to be that gutted going away to Racing Club de Ferrol and not winning, not getting a point? I don't think so. I think, again, it's the same scenario as Guadalajara, as Arenas de Quecho, as perhaps even Catherine. Any team that comes up to me, Nick, playing one of the favourites promotion, I'm not saying they're not got a right to be disappointed, but I don't think they'll be absolutely devastated, because it will be the performance they'll be looking at, and the performance is very, very encouraging for me, and the result is disappointing. But they can build on that hopefully and think, well, next time, if we play that well, we're almost guaranteed to beat pretty much any other team in the league.
Yeah, absolutely. I echo that in its entirety, and I think Racing Ferrol will be one of the tougher places to go for every side, no matter how experienced you are at this level. I think even when Tenerife go to Racing Ferrol, they'll find it difficult too. So there's no shame in the result and the way he played. I've hung my Sestao River shirt behind me here, Liam, because I think I'm going to go with an early shout here that Talavera might be my Sestao. That little kindred spirit club for this season.
It's that kit, though, isn't it, Nick? It's that kit. You're being drawn in by that beautiful shirt, aren't you? Just like the Sestao shirt. Which is a very nice shirt. It was a very nice shirt last year when we got it. I do think that this Talavera kit deserves your support, and therefore the team does as well, definitely.
Yes, definitely. So we'll be watching them next weekend to see whether they can get an elusive point so far. But it's only match day 1, so we're fine. Over to Grupo Dos, Liam. Eldense, a team that you watched last season. We went to watch this last season as well in Elda. So, how did they get on with their return to Primera RF?
Yeah, I didn't think they were great, to be honest. I expected more from them. I really did. I thought second half, not great. I think Dione looked all right without managing to get on the score sheet. And then, I just thought second half, and I know they went down to 10, but I thought they were bang average after the break, if I'm honest.
You sound excited about them.
Yeah, I think we talked about in the previous show. I was kind of like, I don't really know much about this team, obviously, and a little bit more on Manuel Molina's side, and I know about Dione, of course, but generally not a huge amount of knowledge about the players that they've signed. And, because it's a whole new squad, it undoubtedly will take a little bit of time for things to gel, I would think. I was far more impressed with Sabadell, who they played. Obviously, another new team to the division. And I couldn't believe, to be honest, watching this game, that these two sides were 2 leagues apart last season, albeit with, in the Eldense's case, an entirely different squad. What did you make of Sabadell's performance?
I completely agree with you. I was very impressed with how defensively resolute they were to begin with. So Fiore, who we spoke about, at length last season with Stardust Honor, made some, cracking early saves, where Eldense were sort of like reaching out ever so slightly, were applying a little bit of pressure. But after a while, Sabadell just grew in confidence and just kept going forward. And I was particularly impressed with Joel Priego and Migueletti. They just kept finding these little pockets of space in between the Eldense defence and midfield, and ran riot. And, they were exciting to watch. And I think we were speaking before we came on air as well, Liam, like the excitement seems to have hit the town of Sabadell's because it was the fullest stadium I think we've ever seen.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, I was really pleased with what I saw from them. I thought, as you say, exactly right. They second half, they just managed to find that space in between the defensive midfield of Eldense, and they just really, really impressed me. And as you say, very easy on the eye. Let's not forget that the season tickets, I think, Sabadell are like €95. I mean, it's almost worth getting one. just just as a show of appreciation for any club in Primera Federación that can do that, and is prepared to back their fans to that extent in terms of, because realistically they must have thought if we put it at that price, a fair number are going to buy them, because if not, you'd be making a massive financial error, wouldn't you? It feels like the town has come to their support on this, and let's not forget it's very near Barcelona, so there will no doubt be a huge number of Barcelona fans living in Sabadell, so that they've got that challenge. Yes, they are near a big city, but then a huge part of that big city and also quite a big chunk of their town will also be massive Barcelona fans. And so can you persuade them to, maybe that's the thinking behind the very cheap season tickets, is that they'll support their local team even if it's not their first team, because it really doesn't cost very much to do so. But yeah, loads to like about the performance. Loved that Ferran Costa got red carded for getting worked up about something, but yeah, I felt it was a buzz about this place. I felt they deserved to win the game, but they were unlucky not to. So maybe that's the only downer for them, is that they couldn't find a winner. But yeah, if they carry on playing like that, I mean, I said in the preview, didn't I? I thought you had them, I think, just about bang on mid-table, didn't you? If they can carry on playing like that and find that finishing touch in the last third, I think they'll do better than 11th.
Yeah, and the way I was watching it in Ferran Costa's brief time there, and knowing what we know about Ferran Costa from his time at Andorra, sort of at the back end of his Segunda and then into the start of last year, because he got sacked. But let's not forget, they weren't doing massively poorly. Yeah, they weren't leading the way, but they weren't out of the picture. They really seem to have bought into what he's doing, and that attacking intent, which again is very much in his repertoire, it seems to just fit perfectly. And the thing is with Sabadell is he'll get time to implement that as well, because like I say, they will back the manager and they will let him implement his ideas. So yeah, it was definitely deserved the win for me, Liam. I think it's a massive shame that Sabadell didn't get the 3 points.
Yeah, very much so. Another two teams met, two new teams to Grupo Dos, both who've come up from Segunda Federación. Aldo Juventud Torremolinos, despite it being a club close to your beloved Malaga. But yeah, I mean, we did say, didn't we, that we were concerned about them in terms of their squad, in terms of not knowing much about them, in terms of losing their best player from last season, Fran Castillo. You're not really going to help your cause very much, Nick, are you, if over the course of the 90 minutes you have two players sent off? And I have to say, I think they were probably both correct decisions. I know one was, I think that was another FES challenge, wasn't it? I think, and initially given as a yellow, and the referee had another look at it and went, no, I think that's a red card, and I think it probably was. And Gori, former Zaragoza player, I think he is, also sent off. For a clumsy challenge at best. They really didn't help themselves in this one, did they? I think they started reasonably well, but then after that, they massively shot themselves in the foot, really, didn't they? And we're always going to struggle. And as you say, with 9 players, it's never going to end well, is it? Generally. No,
exactly. I think when we look at both of those challenges, certainly the one on Izan Gonzalez, how he's playing football with that much hair, by the way, Liam. I don't know if you've seen the Europa number 16, and I would implore anyone who's listening to go and check it out. He's generally got a ponytail / long hair down to the cheeks of his arse. It's really seriously long. I don't know how he plays with that, but yeah, definitely a bad challenge from Frangaleo. Deserved red.
No, it was Ribeiro, wasn't it? Was it Ribeiro? I think, wasn't it?
Oh, no, sorry. Yes, it was Ribeiro. Yeah, sorry if I'm reading the wrong way. Frangaleo had it cleared off the line, beg my pardon, from one of his chances. But yeah, it is a definite red in the end. The other one, I could maybe see it going the other way. It is a stamp. It is a late challenge, but I've seen him given, I've seen him not given. And in this instance, when you've got FVS, as we'll call it, VAR light, looking at it, then you put yourself in the fire line for it, aren't you? Europa, on the other hand, I can't tell whether Torremolinos actually flattered them or whether Europa actually played really, really well, and we should expect more from them. Because obviously we've kind of predicted both these sides to be in and around the playoffs towards the end of the season. But when they started to turn the screw, Europa, they played some really nice football and they stretched the side as well. And that's especially how the goal came in. Vacas, who was in my team of the week, with a really nice tidy finish, but he ran the show in that midfield alongside Gonzalez. really solid performance from this side.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose they'd look at it and go, we went to a side that we're not expecting to do particularly well, and we only won the game 1-0. Obviously, when you're 1-0 up, I suppose, against 9 men and you're away from home, there's a necessary requirement, is there, to go and push for a second. And as soon as they then lost a player of their own, then clearly they were going to batten down the hatches and hang on to what they had. Yeah, they definitely played well in phase of this game. And 3 points away from home, in your first game in Primera RFEF, that's all you really are looking for, isn't it? Win the game. I didn't see enough from either of these sides to suggest there'll be any more than lower mid-table at best. But yeah, I mean, there was some good passages of play from both, but I think both are going to be, looking nervously over their shoulder at best this season.
Yeah, I think the thing that's going for Europa as well is, I don't know if you saw in the post-match, let's call it antics, how, celebratory they were. You can see there's a real camaraderie amongst the players. And obviously, what they've managed to do, Eddie Benitez obviously has continued as manager. They've kept a core of the squad. I think they've got a couple of players that have been, in the team that have been playing at Europa for over 10 years. There's certainly one that's been playing there for 14 years, which is just crazy to think of at this level of Spanish football. But they do seem to have a good nucleus and a good attitude, and that can turn some of these games where it might finish 0-0 into a 1-0, and that could be the thing that ultimately saves them when we get to June next year. So Europa maybe endearing themselves a little bit more to me as well, and they've got a great game against Sevilla Atletico next week at New Sardinia, so it'll be good interest to see how they get on there. Another side that you managed to watch a lot of last season, Liam, though I imagine that you were not keen to watch them every week, was Cartagena. Any better in Primera RFEF?
I think they're a bit unlucky this one, weren't they? I think they probably were the better side against Antequera away from home. They had a couple of goals disallowed, I think, overall, didn't they? And I think it's another team, isn't it, in transition, really, as we always say, with all four sides. I think probably Tenerife and the side that have made the most eye-catching signings and probably are most capable of coping with this entire new squad with which they're working. Cartagena, Eldense, pretty much on a par for me, and interestingly, they both drew 0-0 in their opening games. I think they'll get better. What did you make of this? This goal was disallowed by Imanol Bath. It was a header, wasn't it? And the referee, I think, gave a foul, and then went across to look at his monitor. And
it's an interesting one. Victor Broncano, the referee, bloody loves FBS. He went over no less than 4 times to go and look at the screen, and not just look at the screen. It was headphones on and everything, and really, in the minute, and camera on him, hair perfectly coiffed. As we were talking about Caddick last week, he was a handsome referee, Liam, and he was clearly making the most of it. For the most part, I think his first one was spot on. This second one, it's a goal. I genuinely don't see what he's done in the box there. I don't see any foul. I don't see any shirt pull. I don't see any elbows. Anything to me that would suggest that a foul was committed. I think he's blowing his whistle and then gone, shit, actually, that might not be the correct decision. And dare I utter it, maybe that's why Alex Rubio's goal got rolled out afterwards to like maybe even it out ever so slightly, because, again, I didn't see much wrong with Rubio's goal either.
No, I didn't either. I wasn't sure that was ruled out. So, yeah, I'm quite sure that the referee will never admit to doing that. But yeah, it did feel a little bit like both goals were perfectly okay. And so perhaps if you don't give either, then they cancel each other out in terms of bad decisions. I mean, again, the fact he went there 4 times, I don't know whether 2 appeals by each coach. Maybe they were, because if not, I'm not sure why he went there 4 times, because as I understood it, they were only going to go there. But there was plenty for the coaches to appeal about. So maybe that's what happened in the end, that each coach used their 2 cards. Yeah, I mean, I think Cartagena will get better, as I say, as the squad gets more used to playing with each other. I also thought Antequera were okay, but obviously they've now got to carry on without Rubio. So that was, something that they had for this first game, and they're not going to have for the rest of the season. It depends, I guess, on who they get in to replace him, because I do think they need somebody, but they're probably now going to have to. I didn't see any startling signings last night from them, so presume they're going to have to rely on the free agent market to try and get someone in.
Yeah, I'm sure they will. And there's one thing that we can testify for Antequera is that they are good at picking up or unearthing a bit of a gem from time to time as well. So I'm sure they'll have their irons in the fire, and they'll pull somebody through who can. But I agree with you entirely, Liam. They look all right, to be fair. They probably won't get as high as they did last season, but they'll certainly compete. And as far as an opening game is concerned against Javier Reyes Cartagena, it's a good result, really. So yeah, I don't think they'll be too mad about that one. On to the last side that's joined us, Liam, the 14th side we're going to talk about, the one that I can't actually say out loud. So for all the people at home, can you please announce the name of this team so I can pick it up properly?
Well, before I get onto that, I just need to apologise to all the Cartagena fans who've had to listen to Nick calling them Cartagena for the last 2 weeks. There's no squiggle on the end, Nick. Says the Spanish team.
Cartagena or
Cartagena.
Cartagena, right.
And as a punishment for failing to pronounce Cartagena correctly and continuing to call them Cartagena when there's no squiggle on the end, you now must go for it with the name of this next team, which I know you can do because you did it last week.
Oh, I'll try my best. Teruel?
Perfect. Teruel? Look at that.
There we go.
Teruel. Couldn't have said it better myself. Superb. Tell us the most exciting thing about Teruel this week.
Well, I've put it in big exclamation marks on our agenda here, Liam. Teddy started, and people who maybe don't know the story, we obviously followed a lot of Yaclano Deportivo last season. Teddy Sutherland played for them. He's an Englishman who is lived out in Spain for a very, very long time, and he was playing for them last season. He's got himself a move to Teruel, and he started, which was fantastic to see, and actually gave a very good account of himself. Liam, I don't know if you managed to see all the highlights of this, but he had a few chances on goal.
He did, yeah. He came close, didn't he? Had a shot on the side netting, I think. And I think they would be encouraged overall. But yeah, it wasn't a classic, was it?
No.
I think Betis Deportivo, obviously, first game for Javi Medina, did pretty much nothing in the first half. I thought they were really, really average. And maybe that would have been, a time when Teruel needed to take advantage of that really, really, underwhelming performance. I think they were better in the second half. But yeah, overall, I mean, as always, the problem is that they haven't scored a goal, and so they probably feel overall that they shaded this game. And if you win against, Filial in your first game and back in Primera RFEF, then you'd be thinking, great, excellent, let's push on from here. But they end up with a 0-0 draw, and it feels a little bit like an opportunity lost, don't you think?
I think so, and especially when they've had, Victor Panos went for the penalty claim. He asked for the FES to look at it, and he lost that as well. So I think that's quite interesting. We've seen, a manager lose one of his cards, so to speak. But as well, I think the fact that they managed to get a goal as well, and again, just maybe looking at this from, obviously I'm sat in my front room in Blackpool. Not at the sidelines in Aragon, but to me, I don't think that goal looked offside. I thought he looked like he just about timed his run right. So I think, again, apologise for his Aragui. I think he did quite well to finish that, and I think it should have stood.
Yeah, I think this is a problem with. I mean, I think FES. I can understand the logic for bringing it in. We talked, didn't we, in the playoff games last season about how many big decisions would have been overturned or would have been made, with the help of technology, that referees got some really big decisions wrong. So I think it was inevitable it had to come in. But yeah, I totally agree with you. I think using it for offside is really suspect, because you are only talking about one camera, aren't you? Do you know what I mean? And then it doesn't always have the best angle. Then there's not going to be lines drawn or anything by a group of people in a box, is there? It's advisory rather than, completely technologically as on the same level as what we've been used to seeing in higher levels of football. And so I don't like it being used for this, but I suppose in that situation, because the linesman's given it, or should I say the assistant referee, it's got to be clearly a mistake before the referee will overturn it. Yeah, I thought it was a harsh one. For me, once the linesman's flag, once the referee's assistant's flag's gone up, I think it's hard to overturn. But yeah, as I say, it's a solid performance overall, and if they can find goals, and there's a lot of teams thinking that this weekend, there were quite a few 0-0s, weren't there? So quite a few teams looking to be a bit less shot shy in front of goal, looking to be a bit more clinical when they do get the chances. They might do all right. And as I've already said, I think Javi Medina will have looked at this one and gone, "I'll take a point," but we need to do a lot better going forward.
No, and I think for all the sides that joined us, this season, I don't think any of themselves have done any disservice, especially the teams that were promoted from the Segunda RF. I think they've given a good account of themselves. So yeah, we'll watch their seasons with added interest. So just to go to some of the other results from the weekend, on Friday night we had Real Madrid Castilla against Lugo. It was the home side without their 45 million euro star man, because he played at the weekend for the first team. They beat Lugo 2-1 at the Alfredo de Stefano. Nastic with a good start to the season as well, Liam. 2-1 win against Algeciras. Ivan Turio had a great game in that, but obviously went off injured as well. So again, massive concerns for them. On Saturday, Zamora and Celta Fortuna played out a 0-0 draw. Merida got off the mark with a 1-0 win against Baracaldo. Unionistas looking like it might be a long season for them, with Osasuna Promesas beating them by 1-0. Hercules won, Tarazona 0. Again, a great game at the Jose Rico Perez. And then the game of the weekend for me, Liam, was Sevilla Atletico and Ibiza. 2 fantastic goals for Ibiza to win 2-0 away at the Estadio Jesus Navas. A really good result.
Yeah, really encouraging for them, isn't it? We expect them to do very well. Bebe with a thunderbolt, as he is prone to doing every now and again. I know quite a few efforts he don't necessarily end up where he wants them to, but there's very few players in Spanish football anywhere, for me, never mind in the third tier of Spanish football, who can hit a ball like Bebe can from a free kick, and it was an absolute stunner. And yeah, a really decent performance, a really decent 3 points to pick up away from home, and yeah, they're off and running, aren't they? I think we've covered most of the games on Sunday, and the one game that we haven't covered wasn't exactly a classic, was it? Orense 0, Bilbao Athletic 0. What about Monday, though?
No, well, on Monday seemed to be a little bit more exciting, though at some point in the evening it did feel like it was going to be another Sunday, because a lot of the games on Sunday as well ended 0-0, which was quite, underwhelming. But yeah, on Monday evening we had Athletic Bay against Atletico Tañequeño. That finished 0-0, which I think is a great point for the away side there, considering the money that Athletic Bay have spent this summer. Villarreal Bay, who we spoke about earlier, they grabbed a 97th minute winner against Alcorcon. Alcorcon without their key man Vladis, but they had managed to hold on in this game and really, had been their equal to Villarreal Bay, but just couldn't keep it out, conceding very, very late in the day. And then maybe the rival for game of the weekend, Liam, Marbella 2, Real Murcia 1. This was, signpost as possibly a great game for the weekend with the, quality of Real Murcia, we know it, but the signings that Marbella made, and it seems to have worked for them, because they, again, were very, very good to watch last night.
Yeah, they look great, and a huge confidence boost. You come into this game, feeling probably a little bit like, you're really going to have a good season, every reason to feel confident, and you go behind after a couple of minutes to one of, for me, the best sides in the division. And it's how they responded to that was impressive, wasn't it? To come back and win a game 2-1, having gone behind so early was great.
Yeah, not a great start to the season for the Gazzaniga brothers, though, isn't it? Because, like I say, the Girona one had a bit of a nightmare start for himself, and then again last night the goal from Eugeni for Marbella that won the game. I think he meant it, but it looks like a very speculative free kick that's just snuck underneath the goalkeeper, and he'll be very disappointed himself. I think maybe Mrs. Gazzaniga needs to bang some heads together and knock some sense into her sons, because they both aren't performing very well at the minute.
No, the others at Girona, isn't he? He's not had a great start either. And yeah, I mean, Gazzaniga made a great save in this game, kept out a really, good effort, and then to let one in like that, yeah. I mean, no professional keeper or semi-professional keeper, I'm sure he is professional, Gazzaniga, is going to want to let in a goal like that. It's just gone straight through his hands, hasn't it? Shocker. And yeah, late winner, but yeah, they all count. And the massive boost to Marbella. Only disappointing, of course, here was that Gabri sat on the bench for the whole game, which is a great grievous error, of course, from Carlos Beltran, but never mind.
We need to go with like our sign that just says Gabri now, or something more eloquent than that potentially. But Yeah, with that many stars on the side, though, I imagine it's quite hard to pick a starting 11 because they have recruited very, very well this summer. Um, we're just going to go towards the end of the show now, but tell you what, Liam, give me 3 games I need to watch in Group 01 next weekend.
Well, one of them pains me to say it, but I will have to say it. We'll start though with Baracaldo against Zamora. I think it's 4:30 on Saturday afternoon. I think that'll be a decent game. Baracaldo starting their home campaign and disappointing defeat in the first game, but I think they'll have a decent crowd then. Zamora, of course, despite having 3 of the best strikers in Primera RFEF last season that have all signed for them this summer. They drew a blank last weekend as well. So that these 2 teams trying to get the first goal of the season. And I think they both will, to be honest. I think it should be a decent game. Tenerife Merida is interesting. Obviously, Tenerife, as we've already said, one of our hot tips to win the league. Merida with a very solid opening day performance. This will be a test, won't it? Really, of where they're at. Really, it's come quite early for them, I know, but that will be interesting to see how they fare on the Canary Islands. And then, as I say, with head in hands to a certain extent and through gritted teeth, I think Real Madrid Castilla against Racing Club de Ferrol will be a cracking game. That's 11 o'clock. I think that's 12 o'clock Spanish time, isn't it? On the Sunday, midday on the Sunday. That will be the Tenerife Merida game. I think it's 7:30 on the Saturday evening. So yeah, I think Real Madrid Castilla have got obviously a decent squad, even without the 45 million euro player. And I think Club de Ferrol, they started well, and then both teams won their first game 2-1, and I think both would aspire to be playoffs minimum. So this should be a decent game.
Yeah, and taking the Ferrolese to Madrid on a 12 o'clock kickoff in September feels a bit mean, really. It's a bit of a weird kickoff time, that given, the heat that Spain is still under. It's not, it's not suddenly gone September, it's gone cold again. It is, it's still quite warm, as we say up north, Liam, at that time. So that's a very interesting decision by Primera RF, but hey, we won't question it. I'm going to give you some Grupo dos games to watch this weekend, Liam, and I'm going to start with Europa, who obviously won this weekend against Torremolinos. They've got their first home game, and just a reminder, they have got up until, I think it's about January the 26th or something like that, Liam, where they can play at New Sardinia. So if you can get to Barcelona to go and watch a game at Gracia before they get kicked out because they can't play on AstroTurf, then go and get the watch can. The atmosphere will be electric. They are playing a Bayside, but it's a poor Bayside, Sevilla Atletico, so a good chance for back-to-back wins for them. Game of the weekend for me, Liam, has got to be Ibiza against Hercules. Obviously, this has been rearranged because of the late announcement of the fixtures. So it's had a time change. I think it's gone to 9:15 on Saturday, now if I remember rightly. So again, a very, very late kickoff at the Estadio Can Mercedes. But it's a early meeting of the 2 title favourites who both won on the weekend. So it's either going to be a fantastic end-to-end game or a complete letdown. Nothing in between, Liam.
Very likely, yeah. I think, these are 2 sides that have started well, and as you say, and we expect them both to be much nearer the top than the bottom, if not at the very top. So yeah, I'm really hopeful this will be a cracker as well. And it has been moved, and of course because of that now, I think Hercules have to stay 2 nights in Ibiza. It's costing them an extra 20,000 euros to do so.
Oh no!
I did notice. I think today, just as we're about to record, I think they then released the fixtures for match day 3. So obviously, as soon as we threaten to record, Nick, and expose their pitiful approach towards the releasing fixtures, they feel that they have to put them out. I haven't even had a chance to check them yet, but yeah, it should be a cracking game. What's your third one then?
My third one is Real Madrid against Juventud de Torremolinos. Not going to be a classic, I won't lie to you, but it sort of like was the best of the rest. It's a good chance to see the return of Flacus, and also obviously Real Madrid's first game at home of the season, and they always get a fantastic crowd into Nueva Condamina. It's a big old place, so be good to see how they respond to that that defeat to Marbella last night. They're my 3 to watch. Just to end with then, Liam, because we did do a show recently where we were both on it. There wasn't El Pozo. I made a little guest appearance on the Spanish Segunda show Patreon, and we spoke all about Spanish football shirts. Just quickly wanted to maybe ask you, did you have a favourite in Primera RF this season? Because we didn't really address that on the Spanish Segunda show.
That's very true. We didn't discuss it at all. We focused purely on Segunda. That's a really good question. I do love the Guadalajara shirt, of course, because it's purple. It's deep purple. It's probably going to be my favorite. But I think Talavera pushes it close. I do really like that one. And Alcorcon, of course, would make the top 3 as well. I know that's probably your number 1, isn't it?
Alcorcon is definitely my number 1. Though, to be fair, looking at Sabadell's shirt this week and noticing again, Kappa finished in our top 2 spots with Depor and Real Valladolid and in the Segunda. Kappa with Alcorcon and with Sabadell doing very, very well in Primera RFEF as well. The other one that I think we won't see them actually playing this season that I really like is the Ibiza 3rd shirt. It's like a really dark navy with golden accents, but I just can't see a time when they've already got a bright blue home shirt and then a bright pink away shirt. I'm just not seeing when they're going to get the chance to wear that in earnest. So could be a collector's piece by the end of the season, and one I certainly want to try and get my hands on. So yeah, I think we should maybe do like a nice thread of shirts like you guys did on Spanish Segunda show. Speaking of which, have you got any plugs for the Spanish Segunda this week? Anything we can look forward to in the shows?
Yeah, there's one massive game between Almería and Racing and Santander this weekend. Obviously, the Spanish Show now split across 2 bits. You get the first part on Monday evening and the second part on Thursday morning. If you want to have both parts on Monday evening, then you can join our Patreon for just €3 a month, and that will enable you to listen to the whole 50 minutes on a Monday night. But yeah, that's a really good start to the season in terms of goals and action. And although Primera Federación was a little bit skinny on the goals this weekend, I'm confident that it will bounce back with a few more this match day 2.
Yes, absolutely. And as far as El Partido is concerned, just to do a self-plug, we had the fantastic Brendan Madden on last week, who is better known as Football Es La Leche on Twitter. He's just released a book called Once Upon a Time in La Liga. I'll tell you what, I'll get it up here just so you can see it on El Podo as well. Fantastic read. It's coming out in next Monday. Go and get yourself a copy. It is so different to any of the other sort of Spanish football books I've read. And Brendan is such a genuinely brilliant guy. So definitely go and give that a listen and give the book a read, because it's worth your time, Liam.
Yeah, absolutely. I really enjoyed the podcast, and I'm looking forward to reading the book when it comes out.
Fantastic. Right. Well, for now, I'll say thank you to you at home. Gracias to you, Liam, for joining me this evening. We'll be back again next week with another El Podo. You can listen to us on our own Spotify page now. We've got our own stream on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts from. You can go to the Spanish Segunda Patreon. If you don't like it to have it with adverts, you can have it in there without them, and obviously get to hear all the other amazing things that those guys do. Or you can catch us on YouTube. So go over there and give us a subscribe at El Partido for the El Podo video. If you like to look at me and Liam, I'm not going to say, but we are quite good to look at, Liam. Little pat on the back. But for now, I'll say thank you very much. We'll see you next week. See you later.